Hello, this is Mark from I Am Organic Gardening, located in Zone 6B. In my last episode, I was using the cordless hedge trimmer attached to an old cedar. And I used that cordless hedge trimmer to cut down all that winter rye that was tall and annual ryegrass and a couple other things in there, including some weeds. But now you can see that it's all cleaned up very nicely. And also hidden there was I have 3 peach trees. Those are the tall ones on your right-hand side and down the middle row. And the other parts, that's not weeds sticking out, that's some comfrey plants growing. And I also have some perennials hidden there too. So today I brought out the bucket that contains all the seeds I need. And you'll see here that I have my winter squash, the butternut and spaghetti, the yellow squash and green zucchini. And I have my putty knife to plant it all. That's all I'm going to be using today, plus the cordless hedge trimmer, just to clean up the area that I'll be planting into. So here's a good example of how I cleaned up the rows. The back part here, which is more than 50% of the width of the row here, is I left a foot tall. That area I want to keep as habitat. I want to keep it for habitat for the praying mantis I'll be putting in there, for spiders, any ladybugs, everything, because now they have protection from other things that are going to be eating them. If there, let's say, is a frog in here, a hawk will not be able to come down as easily to pick up that frog because it has that foot tall grass in the way, hopefully, and will give them more cover. And for the ladybugs to say, I want the bad bugs to stay there too, so the ladybugs can feed on them in case my other plants are having a problem. At least I'm inviting them into the area, they're there already, and also too is that they're eating the bad bugs from the habitat area, and thus if the other plants become infected with other kinds of bugs, they can move on to there. So this is all habitat. And yes, if you have healthy soil, you have healthy plants, and hopefully you will not get any bad bugs that come after it. But since I'm planting such a large amount of the same item, I want that natural insurance policy to keep everything clean in my garden. And in the front of the row, where the sun comes down and shines on it very nicely, is we cut a little bit shorter, and that's what we'll be planting my seeds into. So the winter rye, which is a straw, and there's some grass in there that's hay. Now, that dried very nicely because our last 2 days we've been having heat wave. It's above 9 degrees Fahrenheit, and today I believe they're talking about hitting maybe a new record of 98 degrees Fahrenheit. So in the front part of my row, I'm going to take some spaghetti squash I have here, and I'm just going to move this covering aside here. I don't want to get rid of it too much, and you can see how it has opened up the area. I have some clover in here. Now I just get down to the soil. So I have everything pushed aside. I made my little bird's nest here, and now I'm just going to take the putty knife, and they recommend going down anywhere from a ½ inch to an inch for the spaghetti squash, and then I drop it along the putty knife, poke in the soil a little bit, and that's it. Go to the next hole. I usually plant 3. Take the putty knife, drop it down. Not 3 per hole, 1 per hole. Putty knife in, drop the seed next to the putty knife, push it down, and release. Now, if you can water this afterwards, which would be very helpful. And also, too, is now I have that seed ready to grow in living healthy soil because I have all this mycorrhizal fungi network in there ready to help that seed and build up its immune system, gain more nutrients, and be a healthier plant right from the start. Now I'm going to repeat this process every 3 feet as I recommend down the row. I'm going to leave the straw or the grass that I cut on top of the ground. There is some living mulch underneath it, and it will poke through slowly, but this way will give the squash some time to grow and also mature and come up and be a healthy plant in there. And this is some of the other perennials I have in the back of the row. This is called sedum, the large green leafy plant here, and that's going to bloom in the summertime, bringing more beneficial insects. I took a step over to the next field. The back-to-Eden garden is on your right-hand side. And this is the field that I went out early in the other episodes with the bucket and I pushed down the winter rye. I came back and once again cut it. But I want to show you, if you're worried about your squash seeds not growing in the ground or something else not popping up because of all the roots or other problems in the area from the straw or the hay sitting there, let me just show you this. So in this field, like I mentioned before, the winter rye pushed down to the ground. Now, what's popping up here is a sunflower seed that I had probably fall out of the sunflower heads that I had growing here last year. But all that winter rye is around here that I pushed down to the ground. And that sunflower seed was able to grow through the winter rye on its own. I didn't plant it in there. It's a volunteer sunflower seed and it's doing great. So I'm not worried about the squash or spaghetti squash or any of those things that I'm planting. Because if that sunflower seed can come through all that thick straw here that I pushed down with a bucket, it will work also in your garden too. So I took a walk towards the back of the garden here, and I want to show you this, is because if you notice in the main garden part of the back to Eden, I do not have anything flowering. Hopefully things will flower like the comfrey later on and also that sedum, but I don't have anything now. But what this is something called a cover crop called hairy vetch. It makes this beautiful blue flower, and I have it towards the back of the garden. In my opinion, it's very difficult to cut and try to plant into. That's my opinion. I've never had good success with it, so I really can't recommend it as a good cover crop or a living mulch in the future. If you have an area that is, let's say, dominated by weeds, it is great to grow in there, and it will knock down thistles. It will grow on top of the thistles. It will work everything towards you, but it is something that will take over very nicely in an area that you want beneficial insects to be attracted to. And hairy vetch has the ability to climb almost like sugar snap peas, and it can latch onto this winter rye that it's growing next to, and it will grow to the same height or even taller than the winter rye. And you can see here that it has those little curly tendrils that helps it. This is great, again, to have it as a habitat area for your beneficial insects. And as you can see, I have nothing really flowering in the main back to Eden garden. So I'm going to be planting up some buckwheat, and I'll show you a picture of that. And this is what the plant buckwheat looks like. It has a nice heart-shaped leaf on it, and has several clusters of small white flowers. Attracts a lot of beneficial insects. I'm just going to take 3 or 4 seeds and drop them, like say, every 2 feet, and so I can get some beautiful flowering. I'm just going to lay the seeds right on top of the ground. They'll germinate and they'll do just fine. And here's another beneficial habitat area I have in the next field. This is called yellow sweet clover. And again, it does a nice job bringing in those beneficial insects. And you can see in here that I have some thistles growing. What I just do is I do not pull the thistle out of the ground. I just snap it or cut it off at the soil level, leave it in place, do like a chop and drop, and eventually in time, it's not an easy thing to get rid of, but in time those thistles will not spread because what you're doing, you're controlling them. It takes about 3 or 4 years to completely get rid of them, and I've done it in other fields, is that you're not letting that root gain nutrients by removing the top growth all the time. And also, you can never let it go to seed, meaning the thistle. So the far left row here is going to be all spaghetti squash, and in the middle we're going to have our yellow squash and zucchini, and on our right hand side, the first row, I call that, is going to be our butternut squash. It will take me at least half a day to plant up all those varieties in these rows. The rows are around 250 feet. I didn't get back to the end part. I'll leave that open where the hairy vetch is. There's a lot of people always asking too, how do I try to keep down the squash bugs and also the vine borers, or how do I compete against them or to try to kill them off? They are part of our system. I don't know of any way of doing it. I know people use neem oil and spray things. I don't spray anything on my farm. I outplant them. And what I do is, as you can see, I plant 3 seeds in a mound area. If one dies off or 2 dies off, I still have that other vine. They don't ever seem to attack that whole group, all 3 vines. And like I says, this way I still have enough income from this field, so if I don't get any pest problems, I have a bumper crop, and if I do have a pest problem, I still have income. So I outplant them. I don't know of any other way. I do not spray. There are certified organic sprays out there. I don't wish to use them. I think they cause more harm than good, but that's my personal opinion. There's sprays out there that are certified organic that you can use. If it really bothers you and you don't have this system like I'm using, or you feel that you have to do it, then you have to do it. It's your property, it's your responsibility, and I'm all for it, is because you pay taxes on it. Here's one of the 3 peach trees that I planted back in, I believe, February. It's coming along very nicely. It's small, but it will get there. But hopefully it will increase my mycorrhizal fungi network and do a good job in the future for me. I want to thank you very much for watching today's video. I hope I shared something of interest to you. If you haven't done so, please subscribe, and I'll see you shortly. Thanks.